ASUS, a brand we all probably heard a million times, very widely known for motherboards and some pretty high-end graphics cards and low-end as well. Peripherals lately, but what happens when they enter the custom CPU cooling game? Well, they've teamed up with Noctua to bring you the ROG RYUJIN. So World of Warships came to me with an opportunity to try their game and see how I feel about it, and what they didn't know was I'd already been playing the game for a while. In fact, you've probably even seen me tweet about it. So this sponsorship was pretty much a no-brainer. World of Warships is free to play and called the thinking man's action game because it's the perfect balance of action and strategy. You can command a massive fleet featuring some of history's most iconic war vessels, and as you play, you can unlock new ships and dominate the oceans with 7 million players worldwide. World of Warships uses 3D scans of the actual ship to make it as accurate and lifelike as possible. With over 200 ships across 11 nations, you're likely to see some pretty famous ships in each battle. Click the link below to play World of Warships and collect a special bonus starter pack, including 250 doubloons, 1 million credits, HMS Campbelltown premium ship, 1 premium port slot, and 3 days of premium time by using code PLAYWARSHIPS2018. If you guys come across me out there on the battlefield, I guarantee you don't stand a chance.
The ship is on fire!
Okay, so it's no surprise that ASUS has been building their own ecosystem. They've got power supplies now, like the Thor power supply, which has a live power draw from the wall readout on the side of it in an OLED panel. We'll be taking a look at that as well. But we saw these first at Computex, and they were pretty neat. They had OLED displays on the water cooler or the water block themselves, giving you some pertinent information in your system like CPU temperatures, clock speed, all that sort of thing. But it's taken quite a while for these to actually come to market, because here we are now heading into December, and we first saw this back in June. So the particular model I have right here is the 360. It does come in a 240 and a 360 variant, but I believe this is an ASUS patented collaboration with ASUS here. So we're just doing the unboxing here because what's really difficult for AIO, I hate that, AIO, for all-in-one or closed-loop cooling, especially in the United States with the ASUS patents, there's not a whole lot of customization you can do. I mean, anything on top of the pump is up to the manufacturer, but you're using the same like aluminum radiators. You've got either FEP tubing or, like in this case here, sleeved rubber tubing. And then there's not a whole lot you can do to really make it custom. So what's happened here is ASUS has teamed up with Noctua. So we actually have 3 Noctua industrial PPC fans. These are PWM controlled fans, and this is a 2000 RPM fan. So it's got the legendary airflow performance and static pressure performance of a Noctua fan without the ugly brown on it. It's solid black, so no excuse for them to not just sell black fans all the time. All their coolers come with black fans. That's just me though. I digress. But you know what's just as important as your radiator fin density and all of that junk is the actual, performance of the fans. Now this is going to support all of your standard sockets, all the way from LGA 11 or LGA 775 all the way up to all the standard LGA 13, 11, XX processors, of course your 2011, your 2066, all that stuff. Basically, like I said, it's ASUS, so it has all the same mounting options. But what's different here is it's got this nifty little cover and this OLED display on the cooler. So as I said, this is going to connect to Aura Sync. So all of your ASUS products are going to link through Aura Sync, so you can control things like the RGB lighting, so it will sync up with the rest of your system. We are using an ASUS motherboard here for testing, obviously, so that we have an ecosystem. I'll be using an ASUS graphics card as well. But then this isn't all that attractive looking, so it actually has this cover that can go on top of this. Like somehow, it goes some way. Now the inherent problem with water cooling a lot of people don't really think about or consider is the fact that there are still components on this top part of the motherboard that need some sort of air cooling. You have your VRM blocks on here. In this case, this motherboard actually has a built-in water block / heat sink, but we need air moving over that. We need air moving over the RAM. We need to cool the components and the chokes around the CPU. These are things that have to be cooled. And when you put a water block on there, you're removing a lot of the airflow that's created by your air cooler. When you have an air cooler, whether it be a downfire or a standard size upright air cooler, there is airflow hitting those parts. So when you go water cooling, you tend to go, well, my CPU temps are amazing, but you might notice a rise in temps on both your RAM as well as your VRMs. So ASUS has thought of that. So if you look here, it might be kind of hard to see. There is a fan down in here that blows down on the socket, and the air will splash out and touch all of those components in a 360 fashion. Now in terms of connectivity, we have got a lot of wires here. It's unfortunate. One of my favorite things about closed loop coolers is there's no wires and stuff all coming off of the pump and stuff. But as you can see in this case there is a matrix squid-like spaghetti monster coming off of this, which is unfortunate, but I digress. Coming off of here, you have your fan splitters. So you got 3 here in this case because we have a triple fan. Our SATA power, which is good to see. It's nice to not see Molex. We have a USB 2.0 header because this has to obviously communicate with the system somehow to give you the information on the screen as well as to be able to control the pump itself. And then we have the actual PWM power for the pump. So we've got supplemental power coming through the SATA because we're not pulling all of that wattage and amperage through one header to control the pump and the fans. So we supplement that with the SATA, which is why there's SATA and a PWM on there. So what we gotta do now, we gotta install it and see how cool it can keep our 8700K. All right, so here, we got a problem we've been dealing with right here. The fans weren't spinning up on the radiator at all, no matter what we did. And remember, these, as I showed you, are connecting off of a breakout cable or a splitter that is hardwired into the pump. And when I came over here, I realized that one of these wires is actually bad. Like it, there we go. Oh wow, more of them are coming out. Look at that right there, Phil. So you see those wires going into here? Oh, that's my hand on the fan. The wires are pulling out of the very first fan header. So let me show you. So this one was the one that was just sitting here and had disconnected from the crimp. You can see that, it didn't even crimp onto there at all. But if we look at the other side, you can, oh, another one just popped out. So, yeah, something that I would have seriously hoped for better quality out of a $280 AIO. And the thing is, because this is hardwired into the pump, it's not even like ASUS could send you a replacement cable. So the more I handle this, the more wires just keep pulling out. Because upon looking at it, you can see this one's crimped. You can see how the metal actually folds over and digs into the sleeve or the insulation so that it can't pull out. It goes in like this, you crimp it, it folds over and digs into the insulation, that way the wire can't pull out. That didn't happen on some of these, as you can see, on both of these splitters, and the wires are just pulling out. We're gonna continue testing to see how well the unit does by just plugging this into a PWM 3-way splitter onto my motherboard and then using the AI Suite fan controller, fan tuner to actually tune, which means that the cooler itself is not gonna be controlling the radiator anymore. It means that the motherboard will. Okay, so I'm using ASUS Fan Expert 4 to kind of get all the RPMs and stuff set on the fan. So it's gonna go through the pump, it's gonna go through the CPU headers and all that stuff, and it's going to find the RPM range of the fans. That way when you click silent or turbo and all that stuff, it knows kind of where to set the RPMs. This is the same thing you would do though if you were gonna be tuning it for plugged in, if you're plugged into the pump as the way it's supposed to be. So the only difference now is instead of the radiator being controlled by the pump, it's being controlled by the motherboard CPU and CPU optional headers. I have a splitter going to one of them and then one fan going to the other header because I couldn't find my 3-way splitter. Something I shouldn't have had to use for this video, unfortunately. But the little fan that's actually on the pump, we'll show you in a second. That thing is loud. Holy crap, is that thing loud. And it's a really high pitched. It reminds me of the old chipset fans on the old school motherboards back at the LGA 775 stuff. Wait for it. There it goes. Wow. That thing is so high pitched and loud. Now, another thing I'm not a huge fan of is the fact that you have to have a separate program for the fan control of the cooler and a separate program for the actual OLED display where you can change the display and the readout and the animation and all that stuff. I don't see why ASUS couldn't combine this into one piece of software instead of going the bloatware route. So Live Dash, this is how you control the little display. If you have a motherboard, an ASUS motherboard with an OLED, you'll see Live Dash OLED there. Otherwise, you'll just see AIO cooler. This is where you can change the stuff you want to see. So AIO, we can change here hardware monitor. This tells us what things we can see. Image or animation, custom banner, and lighting control. So that's how you control the lighting if it doesn't use ASUS Aura, which technically we could, but we're gonna use the built-in here. You can even turn it off if you want, and you can rotate it because, yeah, it's not always straight, so you can rotate the display so it's always upright. That's kind of nice. This is where you select the things you want to monitor. So let's see, frequency, CPU, that's good to see. Voltage would be nice, and temperature. So these are the things we selected. It's cycling through the temperature, the voltage, as well as the frequency. So we're 4.7 gigahertz, we are 1.312 volts, which is kind of high, and we are at 27 degrees Fahrenheit on the CPU. So obviously our 8700K is doing pretty decent. We can also do a custom banner, little background banner here. Step 2, type text, English only. That's funny, how would it know? Okay, whatever. There we go, Jayztwocents is dope, and the best YouTuber ever. Lul's winning, best dude 2018. So, I mean, there's a little bit of fun factor there. Okay, anyway, you get an idea, you get the idea. You can play around with the display, make it say really cool things or super true things like that right there. And that's all fine and dandy, but how does it cool? So we're currently idling at 26C. It's showing 37 right now because we just loaded up. All right, 25C at idle. Let's run this and see what we get. 30, 57. 59. Wow, it's actually doing pretty decent. I'm actually pretty impressed. The 8700K is a notoriously hot CPU, so this tells me we have quite a bit of overclocking headroom. Even though we're at 4.7 gigahertz on all cores, that's technically an overclock. Let's see if this can handle 5 gigahertz. What do you think? Go for broke? Blow it up? All right, so I've got it running at 5 gigahertz right now, 1.4 volts. This is a lot to ask of any AIO on an 8700K because of how hot they run. So let's see what we get. You ready? We're idling at 29C, 32, let's bounce around a little bit, 28. Okay, here we go, 3, 2, 1, go. 75, 84. Remember, 105 is our max on this chip. 85. Wow. Okay. I'm pretty impressed. I pushed more voltage than I think I would have needed. I mean, 5 gigahertz is not that hard to get on an 8700K, but it's hard to keep cool. This AIO definitely can keep it cool. I just would have really liked to have seen those wires not pull out. I mean, these are the kind of things you deal with first round manufacturing. I don't know if anyone else has reported the problem. Ours clearly has non-crimped cables, which caused us some issues, and we have to use a separate way of interacting with the fans. But I mean, in terms of quality, for $280, it's $279 MSRP for the RYUJIN 360. 3 Noctua fans, obviously the OLED display on there. We've got some innovation happening, getting more than just a typical boring AIO. You do get some pretty good build quality in terms of the radiator and the extra stuff. It's just, unfortunately, this one for an average user would have been considered bad out of the box. So guys, sound off in the comments below and tell me what you think about this cooler. We saw it first back at Computex. It's nice to see it finally hit the market. It's hard to improve upon Asetek patented AIO, and obviously ASUS is putting their spin on it. What AIO coolers do you guys like to use? Sound off in the comments below and let us know. And as always, guys, we'll see you in the next one.
And action.
Okay, so listen to what I'm saying. Crossfire, you know.
Cool.
So it's all